Welcome everybody to the Short Sports Show. I'm your host Daniel Short. Today is a beautiful Sunday morning, and I had to make up for being out past 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, I had to get ready for. I was doing some school stuff, and then last week moving to a new apartment. And now we finally got it. I had to do it today. I was like, I have to get the show going. And we got a lot of news to talk about. We got the Big 12. Will they really expand? And we also have, how would you feel if Jim Harbaugh told you to quit? We got that, as well as Adrian Peterson doing his thing to get ready for the season. Lots of news to talk about. Tons of college football news. That's what I love. We have tons of college football news. We got a semi-good amount of the NFL. We'll talk a few other things, but first, let's jump straight into it. Cut the music. It is now linebacker Anthony Harrell said Friday on Twitter that he is transferring from Georgia Tech to Florida for his final year of eligibility. Harrell's announcement came on the heels of the news that the Yellow Jackets had suspended him indefinitely, which he denied in a tweet after Georgia Tech said, "Hey, Anthony Harrell has been suspended indefinitely," and then he tweeted at them, "Yeah, right. Get your facts right. That's, this and that he's going ahead and transferring to Florida." But the head coach Georgia Tech, Paul Johnson, said in a text message to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that Harrell's suspension was because of a violation of team rules. The newspaper said Harrell had been taking part in spring activities over the summer and had been projected to be the starter at the middle linebacker position. Harrell is expected to enroll at Florida next week, this upcoming week, where he will compete at the middle linebacker and weak side linebacker position. Harrell earned his degree in management in the spring, meaning he would be eligible to play immediately for another team, this being Florida. And he's a native of Tampa Bay, and his father, James Harrell, played for the Gators, so good little family reunion right there for him. Defensive lineman Andre Pipkins told ESPN that Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh, as well as head athletic trainer Paul Schmidt and associate athletic director Jim Minnick, asked Pipkins about 10 times over a 2-month period to sign a medical scholarship form that would have ended his career with the Wolverines before he wanted it to end. This is what he had to say, saying, quote, "I feel I'm healthy and ready to play." This is what Pipkins said. Who played last season after was cleared to return from a torn knee ligament. Excuse me, people. I didn't want to sign the form. I wanted to play for my seniors and for the team. Coach Harbaugh said, "I recommend you take the medical," as in signing it and ending his playing career. Pipkins said doctors initially told him that he had some arthritis in his knee, but that he should not be disqualified from competition. But as pressure continued from others within the program to sign the medical form, he was Michigan sent him back to a knee surgeon who recommended he rest his body for 6 months. It's a little iffy after someone just told you you're okay, and then you're now sent back, and now they're telling you to rest for 6 months. I mean, that's something had to happen within that time period. Pipkins now says he does plan to transfer for his senior season, and he said that scholarship he earned in 2012 was for 4 guaranteed years, meaning the school could not, quote, cut him for performance reasons. Players who retire for medical reasons are also allowed to complete their education on scholarship. But again, according to Pipkins, Harbaugh said he wanted to, quote, make sure he graduated from Michigan, but the coach did not plan to invite Pipkins to the fall camp in part of medical concerns. The lineman added that Harbaugh said he did not believe he would be drafted into the NFL for medical reasons. Finally, Pipkins said he knows at least one other Michigan player who had been told that he must, quote, get healthy by July 1st deadline or sign a medical to retire. Andre Pipkins said he was told this week by Michigan that at his request, he could have contact with Oklahoma State, Georgia State, Tennessee, Florida State, or Washington State, and TCU concerning a transfer. I am happy. I feel bad for him that he has to leave the school that he so dearly loved in Michigan, and having been told you have to quit after other doctors have said you are fine, that you can play, you're back to being healthy, you just keep training, rehabbing, whatever you got to do. But three head people are telling you to quit. That's upsetting. I can understand that. But at the same time, I mean, those schools that that he can look at to transfer, not bad. I mean, Oklahoma State, iffy. Georgia State, obviously, that's the last choice you want to go to. Tennessee, Florida State, and Washington State, obviously Florida State being really good. Tennessee on the rise, Washington State, iffy as well. But you got TCU. Come play for TCU. We'll take you open arms and come win a national championship with us. Oh, my goodness, would that be exciting to have him. Ole Miss All-American junior left tackle Larry Tunsil, a lot of people remember his name, was arrested Friday in Oxford, Mississippi on charges of domestic violence against his stepfather, head coach Hugh Freeze said. This is what happened. Tunsil was at his mother's house, of course, with his mother, and her husband, which is Tunsil's stepfather, when the incident occurred on Thursday. Tunsil and his mother have since pressed charges against the stepfather, according to head coach Hugh Freeze. This is what Hugh Freeze said. His stepfather shoved his mom, and Laramie punched him. It's as simple as that. He was defending his mother. Again, Tunsil was a 6'5", 305-pound young man, of course. He was an all-SEC performer last season and is considered one of the nation's top offensive linemen. Hugh Freeze said, quote, "We can confirm that Larry Tunsil has turned himself in and was arrested for a misdemeanor domestic violence simple assault. Larry realizes that he could have handled it differently, but I am proud of him for standing up for his mother and protecting his family. Laramie and his mother have also pressed charges against the stepfather. As we gain more facts, we will act and make decisions accordingly." Again, that's what head coach Hugh Freeze said in response to all this. Laramie Tunsil was projected as a top 5 and the number fourth overall pick by ESPN's Todd McShay in his early look at the 2016 NFL draft. Of course, obviously, again, it's an early look, but he was projected to be top 5, top 10 guaranteed pick. I don't think this hurts him any in his draft stock. If it's all true that his mother was shoved and he ended up just punching the guy, I mean, that's just really shouldn't even be charged. That's just self-defense, if anything. I know it wasn't against him, but given the situation, we'll just have to see. But it's not going to hurt him. He's not going to be suspended for anything. He's not going to be penalized for anything of this. I think it'll just pass right through. But I mean, good for him standing up though. And you just got to think about. I wonder what his stepfather, like, how big is he? Because you think about it, if Larry Tunsil is 6'5", 305, you really ought to think about trying to pick a fight with him or doing anything that might upset him. I know I would. Florida State head coach Jimbo Fisher has indefinitely suspended freshman quarterback DeAndre Johnson on Thursday for an undisclosed violation of team rules. But as we all know, Johnson has been accused of punching a female FSU student at a Tallahassee bar Wednesday night, sources said. This is, again, another player of Jimbo Fisher's getting out of control and doing something against a female. According to the sources, Johnson was involved in an argument with a woman after she cut in front of him while they were waiting to order drinks at a bar near the Florida State campus. Witnesses told police that the woman raised her arms and then Johnson grabbed them and punched her in the face. Johnson from First Coast High School in Jacksonville, Florida, has not been charged with the crime, and police did not interview Johnson on Wednesday night because he had left the bar. Tallahassee attorney Tim Jansen, who has represented Florida State student-athletes in the past, told sources on Thursday that he was unaware of the incident. Johnson, who enrolled at Florida State in January after graduating early from high school, isn't thought to be one of the main contenders for the Florida State starting job this season. Of course, we got Everett Golson coming out from Notre Dame. I think we all pretty much knew once he transferred over there that he was going to be the starter. Sean McGuire, I don't know. If I was a Florida State, I'd be happy to have Everett Golson because I don't believe Sean McGuire can lead that team. But now DeAndre Johnson, you're not really starting off your college career on a good note. They didn't release anything else, whether he would be, obviously, other than just being indefinitely suspended, whether this leads into the season or he gets kicked off the team and he ends up transferring somewhere. Nothing. Not even a hint of anything. So we'll just have to see on that. But Jimbo Fisher, you would think, I had much respect for Jimbo Fisher, other than in the beginning when, how they kicked out Bobby Bowden. Not his fault. But anyways, I don't know. This is just the past several years and it's not just the Jameis Winston situation. It's been other players that have just been getting in trouble with Florida State. And I think there was a report by Sports Illustrated or someone else that released something saying that Florida State has had more student athletes involved in a crime than any other Florida school. It's ridiculous. That's just crazy, and it's all happened in like recent years too. So we'll just have to see if Florida State gets hit with like sanctions or something. I mean, I would think so. Something needs to happen to enforce to say Florida State, hey, slow your roll, control your players, do something because everything is out of control right now. We'll just have to see. A formal proposal for the deregulation of conference championship games, which would allow the Big 12 to have a championship game as early as 2016, was advanced by the NCAA Council this week and is expected to be approved in January. Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowsley told sources, quote, it's officially in the system. We haven't encountered any resistance to it at all. It's really deregulation. It's allowing conferences to do what they want to determine their champion, and in the end, I expect that it will be approved. But under the current NCAA rules, conferences must have 12 members and 2 divisions to host a league title game. The Big 12, with only 10 teams, is the only Power 5 conference that doesn't have a title game, and of course, we've all heard problems the Big 12 has had this past season. The Big 12 has been the center of the postseason discussions in the new era of the college football playoff because of how important the Big Ten championship game was to Ohio State, who, of course, sadly jumped TCU on the last week. And TCU dropped from number 3 to number 6, despite winning its game 55 to like 3 or something like that over Iowa State. Y'all know the rest. I don't need to talk about it. But when Bob Bowsley, the commissioner of the Big 12, was asked about expanding to 12 teams, because you knew that had to come up. That had to come up when they're talking about staying at 10 and just getting a conference championship game. They said, you know what? No, media, we got to ask about why don't you just add 2 more teams? Great question. This is what he had to say. I certainly would never say never, but I don't think the votes are there at the present time to move from 10. The significant majority of our presidents and chancellors feel that 10 is the right number, but, and he didn't say which president, I mean, he said President Boren, but for people that don't know, President Boren is the president of the University of Oklahoma. But President Boren is an influential guy in our meetings. If he would advocate for it, I'm sure other presidents and chancellors would listen, which leads me into my next point here. Wednesday, Oklahoma President David Boren made waves when he suggested the Big 12 should, quote, should strive for a 12-team league. Getting just all mixed up here. Boren's comments were the first from the Big 12 leader advocating for expansion in a long time. This is what he had to say. This is what he told the Oklahomian. Quote, I think we should. How many years can this go on? It's just really debilitating. I worry about that. That's something I just worry about long term about the conference, not short term. One of the reasons other Big 12 leaders, Commissioner Bob Bowsley included, have downplayed the expansion possibility is because the options available. True. Bowsley said just last month there is no interest from the league in expanding. Now, here are a few teams that we've all heard, and I'm going to give you my take on what the Big 12 should just do because, this is my show, and I feel like people aren't really looking at this option when it really is an option. So first, let me just tell you some of the schools we all know. We all know BYU. Big 12, even talked about adding them, and then BYU at that time kind of just said no because of what Texas was having with the Longhorn Network. But the Big 12 has long flirted with BYU, and just last summer, Cougars head coach Bronco Mendenhall said, quote, he would love to be in the Big 12. And financially for the BYU, it makes sense. They have the biggest TV revenue and fan base out of any of the non-Power 5 schools that are out there. But from Morgantown, West Virginia to Provo, Utah, it's almost 2,000 miles. So having that and having them play each other, not really going to help going coast to coast. So they see that as a problem. But if you did end up adding BYU anyways, you still got to go somewhere east to help out West Virginia because they're kind of just lone wolf. They're just by themselves right now. So to get to 12, the conference would have to add another team. And there are some smaller schools out there. You have Memphis, solid basketball program. Could help that up for the Big 12. Football is iffy, even though they're starting to get there, winning some bowl games. You have UCF, which I'm not a huge fan of. I understand it's a great school. It goes into the Florida market. It's awesome, but it's not that big football school, that big name school that you want for the Big 12. I mean, the Big 12 used to be the big conference. It used to be one of the big conferences. Now it's subpar right now, even though we got TCU and Baylor doing its thing. We need Texas and Oklahoma to start coming up. But anyways, we need more adding quality schools. UCF, I don't see that as a quality school, sports-wise. Then there's also apparently Air Force, iffy. Cincinnati, good market, TV market. I don't know about recruiting up there. And now with Houston doing its thing with head coach Todd Herman, building that program, the recruiting base has grown really strong for Houston, so that could be an option. And even SMU, if they're able to get back to their winning ways or get it close to it, I mean, joining the Big 12 would definitely help SMU in recruiting and things like that. Their basketball program being pretty good as well. But one of the bad thing for Houston and SMU, they're kind of normally they would be looked at, especially if they start getting hot in football. But the Big 12 really doesn't want to add another team that is from the Lone Star State of Texas, so that's kind of hurting them. Here's some different options out there that would really start being interesting. One is this: Nebraska. Of course, we all know they were back in the Big 12. Nebraska once played in college football's most storied rivalry games against Oklahoma. Today, Nebraska's biggest rival in the Big Ten is Iowa. That doesn't help. That is not good for them and for the country to want to watch, good games. Nebraska's, left the Big 12 primarily over its frustration with the leadership at the University of Texas. But since Nebraska's exit, the Longhorns have hired a new president, a new athletic director, and a new football coach. Maybe there's some change. Especially Texas has really dropped off. If the Huskers, said, what, Big Ten really isn't helping because they're not playing Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, every single year. They're on that opposite division of really just the subpar teams. They're not playing the big schools like they intended to play. That's why they jumped to the Big Ten. They're not playing them. The Big 12 would have open arms and be excited to have Nebraska come back because of the rivalry it brings. Nebraska would actually probably get good again. Because you think about it, when Nebraska left, they were like top 5 in the country. And ever since joining the Big 10, they've struggled to stay in the top 25. They've been in and out. Recruiting would heat up, and Nebraska doesn't even touch the Texas recruiting anymore. They're basically cut off. Nobody from Texas is going to Nebraska. At least really good players aren't going there like they used to. I mean, recruiting has been soured since Huskers have moved to the Big Ten. So the Big Ten said, if Nebraska said, what, Big Ten really isn't what we thought it was going to be. Let's go ahead and just move out. Come back to the Big 12 because they're going to take us. We'll get money. We're going to make money. We're going to get recruiting. We're going to get good at all sports again. Boom. This is great. I mean, it'd be exciting to see TCU and Nebraska play each other. Or now Baylor being good, Baylor versus Nebraska. Of course, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Nebraska, Texas are going to lead the way. It'd be exciting to have Nebraska come back. That could be an option. Another one is, and there's people where they're going to be like, no, this isn't going to happen. That's unrealistic. It's really not. You just got to do a little bit of research. So here we go. Stick with me. As we all know, in the ACC, Duke and North Carolina, they hold the power there because of how strong they are in basketball. So they're not leaving. I'm not saying the Big 12 should go after them. It'd be kind of cool, though, but it's not going to happen. But because of Duke and North Carolina really holding that power of the ACC, Florida State isn't really happy about that. They haven't been. Florida State's that big school overall, and they want to have control. They have had in the past, back when this is when Nebraska and Colorado had left the Big 12, Florida State and Miami had flirted with the possibility of joining the Big 12 to take their place. At the time, Big 12 kind of just laid off on it, as well as there was Florida State and Miami as well. They were kind of iffy too about leaving. But if another disagreement happens with Florida State and the higher power of the ACC, and Duke and North Carolina kind of get into it with Florida State, we could see another huge move in the college football landscape. We could possibly see Florida State, Clemson, and Miami all jumping to the Big 12 and leaving the ACC, which would cause dramatic problems with the ACC and could shift a lot of things, and possibly could kill the ACC, and Duke and North Carolina would be scrambling. But Florida State and Miami, they both flirted with the idea of going to the Big 12. This is, you go look it up. I wish I could give you guys, you know what? I'll go back in this show. I already made the description. I'll go back and I'll link the articles of back when Florida State and Miami were both looking at the possibility of jumping to the Big 12. So just so people don't think I'm just making this all up and being biased because that's what I want. This is true. This could happen, and could have happened, and could still happen. That's what I'm hoping for. Everybody's saying let the Big 12 add Boise State and BYU. Those are great schools. Don't get me wrong. I like them. I think they're better fit for the Pac-12. I think the Pac-12 should just go ahead and expand the Pac-14, be a big conference, and go ahead and just get both of those schools, because it'd be great for Boise State, of course. BYU, it'd be fine for them too. I think they're better fit for the Pac-12 and making that the Pac-14. This is if I was the Big 12 and they wanted to expand to actual 12 teams and really to be those big conferences that we're always talking about the Power 14, the Big 14 school or leagues, or even 16. This is what I go. If I'm the Big 12, this is what I want to see. I say the Big 12 adds the University of Miami, Florida State, Clemson, and those three schools, and maybe Cincinnati, because I kind of like going northeast, helping out West Virginia, because they don't want to always play southeast. Have Cincinnati go up. It taps us into the Ohio market, and maybe hurts Ohio State as well. At those four teams, Miami, Florida State, Clemson, and Cincinnati. Boom, juggernauts of money come your way, and you tap into the Florida recruiting base. Florida, those Florida schools do the same for jumping into Texas, even though they're already here, as well as Oklahoma and some of the other states. Go over there, brings in money, create the divisions, of course, and then later down the line, look at the possibility, depending on what Houston and SMU are doing, maybe look at them and join and having them join as well. Because if that happened, Miami, Florida State, Clemson, and Cincinnati all joined the Big 12, it's going to be a huge shift. The ACC is going to be scrambling for teams. Most likely they could add SMU and Houston. They would probably jump. But if they didn't, of course, Houston and SMU's biggest, their ideal home run situation would be joining the Big 12. Look at them coming in, because by then you've already expanded out east like you wanted, and you have a little bit of range where you can make a South division and a North, or South, I guess Southeast and a Northeast. I don't know. They'll come up with something. But Houston and SMU, it bring back the rivalries with Texas and Baylor. And TCU doesn't really play Houston. TCU plays SMU all the time. But TCU Houston, that would be a fun game to watch. It really would. But that's what I say. And I think a lot of people would agree with seeing Miami join the Big 12 instead of playing the ACC, because Miami hasn't won anything since joining the ACC. A lot of people think they, because of watching the documentaries of the U, stuff like that they have, still been somewhat successful. They haven't won a thing in the ACC since joining. All their wins have come from the Big East back when they were over there. Miami, do the same thing. You thought ACC was going to be a good option for you. It hasn't. Join to the Big 12 where you would play Texas, Oklahoma, TCU. Those are some good games. And again, maybe Nebraska, if they were able to come in, join Nebraska instead of Clemson. I still like that Cincinnati part. Have them. But let's move on. We spent too much time on that. Ex-Wake Forest quarterback. Also, let me know at Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at @short_sports 24/7. Username is down below. And follow me there on Twitter. Let me know what you guys think. And also on Facebook and all the other good stuff. Links are down below in the comment section as well. Ex-Wake Forest quarterback Tyler Cameron is on his way to FAU, Florida Atlantic University. Cameron actually has 2 years of eligibility remaining at FAU, thanks to graduating from Wake Forest in just 3 years. FAU is returning three-year starter Jaquez Johnson, but Cameron would fill out some depth at the position and have some time to get adjusted around its new surroundings. So some good news for FAU, but Wake Forest is really slim at quarterbacks now. And check this out. This is most surprising news right here. Iowa State, Iowa State University, is expanding their stadium to, check this out, not 30,000, not 40,000, not even 50,000, to 61,000 seats. Iowa State, people. Iowa State, the Cyclones. And it's nearly complete. Iowa State is putting finishing touches on upgrades to Jack Rice Stadium, with the seating capacity jumping over 60,000 in the end. The Cyclones open up the stadium to the media on Friday to give a first look at some of the new features of the place that Iowa State has called home since 1975. The expansion of the stadium will make Iowa State home to the third largest stadium in the Big 12, behind, of course, Texas and Oklahoma. Who would have thought Iowa State, that people would go watch Iowa State football, that 61,000 people would go watch Iowa State play football? I don't know. That blows my mind. I'm sorry. They don't have a rich tradition in football, but 61,000. That's crazy. But they're doing this because Iowa State will host TCU, Texas, and Oklahoma State this season alone. So, those are teams that travel and getting bigger fan bases at TCU. And I don't know, one of those games, they're going to break the single game attendance record of 56,800, which was first set on October 13th, 2012 versus Kansas State, and was matched 3 times since. But I didn't even know that many people would want to see Iowa State play football. No disrespect to Iowa State, none at all, but 61,000. That is crazy. What is also crazy is Louisville's new uniforms. If you guys haven't seen them, check them out on Twitter. They're everywhere. I love them. I love the helmet, the big L for Louisville, with the silver chrome on it. Ooh, that looks nice. And on the opposite side, you got a Cardinal logo right on the. Ooh, man, their uniforms look nice. The one thing I don't really like is on the away jersey, the white jersey, of the silver numbers. That to me kind of looks a little girly because it looks, a little flashy. Not flashy in a good way. Like Oregon is flashy. That's a good thing. Louisville's jersey numbers on their away uniforms, so the white jerseys, the gray silver numbers, that looks like girl flashy, kind of not good for football. But other than that, I love the helmet. The helmet is my favorite part. It's just awesome. So awesome for Louisville. What's also awesome is TCU, and they are now making more national statement with the signing of the number 1 dual threat quarterback in the country, not just in the state of Texas, but in the country, with quarterback Sean Robinson. TCU continues to make the most of a 12-1 season and a top 3 AP poll finish in the 2014. Already with the class in 2016 that ranks in the top 20 in the Recruiting Nation class rankings, featuring 5 ESPN 300 verbals. Gary Patterson and his staff took a huge step Friday in proving that the Horned Frogs have arrived on the recruiting stage nationally by picking up commitment from one of the nation's top 2017 quarterbacks in Sean Robinson. Now, again, I know 2017 signing day is forever from now, but that is huge that the number 1 quarterback is dual threat. He's the number 2 overall quarterback, but the number 1 dual threat quarterback, which I'd rather have him anyways than the other guy that's like from Indiana or something. They don't even play football in Indiana. This guy, he reminds me a lot like Russell Wilson, except he's 6'3" already at the age of 16. Sean Robinson from Denton Guire, who pumps out football players like crazy. I'm excited. Hopefully he holds on. I mean, he's got recruiting offers from everybody, from Alabama, from LSU, from A&M, from Texas, from Oklahoma, from Ohio State, Oregon. Everybody you want to name, he's got a scholarship from them, but he chose TCU. I'm telling you guys, TCU's on the rise. I love it. All right, let's move on to the NFL. And still got a good amount of news, a lot of good things to talk about, and a lot of exciting news that's going to lead up in the next few months. The NFL confirmed that it is researching potential temporary venues that could host a team or teams in Los Angeles beginning in 2016. NFL Vice President of Corporate Development Chris Harden acknowledged that the league has issued proposal requests to multiple venues in Southern California, including the Rose Bowl and the Los Angeles Coliseum, saying, quote, "It is a part of a process and an effort to understand all of our options and have a well-thought-out plan if a team or teams were to be approved to relocate." The league has 2 Los Angeles proposals on the table: the San Diego Chargers and the Los Angeles Raiders. Might have jinxed it right there. Just said Los Angeles Raiders. The Oakland Raiders proposed in February building a $1.7 billion NFL stadium in Carson. And in January, a developer and a company operated by the St. Louis Rams owner unveiled plans to build a $1.86 billion, 80,000-seat stadium in Inglewood, California, on land he owns near Hollywood Park. Now, Los Angeles has not had an NFL team since the Rams and the Raiders departed to St. Louis and Oakland, respectively, in 1995. But the NFL will take lead in negotiating any agreements with venues, which would then be assigned by the league to a team or teams to relocate. So, out of all that jumbo mess right there, last summer, the Rose Bowl underwent $182 million renovation improvements, including the addition of new suites, club seats, refurbished locker rooms, and expanded press box. But the Coliseum would need renovations in order to host the NFL team, but could benefit from the NFL using the stadium by receiving much-needed facility upgrades. Anyways, I love the Coliseum idea, even though, I love the Rose Bowl. It's a beautiful stadium, the best stadium in college or in football overall, next to the original Cotton Bowl. But the Coliseum would be nice too. That would bring a lot of memories for Raiders fans. But if the Chargers could go over there, and I wouldn't even mind if the Chargers played at the Rose Bowl and then the Raiders played at the Coliseum. Raiders played there. I think the Chargers also played there when they were in LA. I wouldn't mind. If you want to split it that way, we can rock with it that way. That's cool with me too. All I know is I want the San Diego Chargers to become the Los Angeles Chargers come 2016 or 2017. I really don't care. That's what needs to happen. I rant about it before. I'm not going to do it on the show right now. But you already know how I feel. Dez Bryant's agents met with the Dallas Cowboys on Friday, sources say, with the deadline to agree to a long-term deal July 15th, Dez Bryant's agents and the Dallas Cowboys had their first face-to-face meeting in nearly 4 months this week at the team's facility, sources said. Last month, Cowboys Executive Vice President Stephen Jones said the team would make a push to sign Bryant to a deal, but much work remains before that actually happens. Bryant has yet to sign his $12.823 million franchise tender in hopes of a deal with larger guaranteed money. Apparently, $12 million really can't make you that happy. Bryant's camp has threatened the receiver. Excuse me, let me rephrase all of that. Bryant's camp has threatened that the receiver will miss regular season games, even though there would be no financial incentive. After July 15th, Bryant has to play the season on the tender, and two sides could begin negotiations after this season. Bryant missed most of the Cowboys' offseason program, showed up for a handful of workouts and organized team activities. He attended the final day of the Cowboys' mandatory minicamp June 18th, but did not practice. The Cowboys do not believe the threat to miss games would. They don't believe in that because it would cost Bryant roughly just $754,000 each week. Just like 700. No, I'm not even gonna. Just a whole lot of money. Just a whole lot of money. Owner and general manager Jerry Jones believes Bryant will be, quote, leading the way when the Cowboys open the season September 13th against the New York Giants. Let's hope so. Come on, Dez. I mean, I know you want a bigger contract. That's fine. If it's years you're talking about, but money, I mean, $12.83 million. That's good enough, dude. I mean, that's enough to buy you a ton of things, and if you had a career-ending injury, or even if the worst-case scenario you died, your family would be taken care of. Let's just say that. I mean, you'd be fine. Your family would be fine with that much money. But apparently that's not good enough. During an appearance last week on the Boomer and Carden CBS radio show, if I can remember, Herschel Walker, wow, his name just slipped past me, expressed confidence that he can still play, in part because today's NFL uses of running backs and more of a rotation package, so he would not be subject to the same demands he experienced in his playing career from 1986 to 1997. He also said, Herschel Walker, that he ran a 4.3 40-yard dash a year ago. Need I remind you guys, he is 53 years old, and he ran a 4.3. So really, at the age of 52, he ran a 4.3. Most teens cannot run a 4.3. I don't know. But this is what head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, Dan Quinn, this is what Herschel Walker said on the show, saying, quote, "There's no doubt in my mind if I play today, I could contribute to a team." That's what Herschel Walker said. Now, based on the 1982 Heisman Trophy winner's remarks, Atlanta Falcons head coach Dan Quinn answered the question on whether the team could use Walker when the coach spoke at an Atlanta business meeting on Tuesday. I think, quote, "He's one of my all-time favorite players. Yeah, we'd have room for him. He definitely fit in great." That's what head coach Dan Quinn said. So, despite all that, regarding the 53-year-old Herschel Walker, Atlanta Falcons head coach Dan Quinn clarified Friday that his admiration for the former star running back was not an invitation to the team's training camp. Quote, "Look, what I said about Herschel being one of my favorite all-time players is true, but nobody should take seriously what I said about having room on the team for him. I love him, yes, but some of that was in jest. I love running backs we have on our roster. We had a great off season. I'm excited about going into training camp with that group. Herschel Walker, he really wanted that. He wanted a chance. And honestly, I wouldn't take a chance on him, but I kind of would take a chance on him at the same time. And this is what I mean. One, you would have media like crazy. That'd be kind of cool. No, not really. But if Herschel Walker were to try, I mean, why not try out? Why not? I wish this would have happened sooner in like OTAs and voluntary training camp. Have that and just see where he's at. Just see where he's at, just for the heck of it. But yeah, it'd just be ridiculous for a 53-year-old in Herschel Walker to try to play, despite whether he ran a 4.3 or whatever. It's not going to happen. And last news before we wrap up the show today, Adrian Peterson is leading teammates in summer workouts. Despite being suspended and unhappy for much of the offseason, running back Adrian Peterson has assumed a leadership role with the Vikings in recent weeks. With the team off until the start of training camp, Peterson has brought teammates, including wide receiver Mike Wallace and running back Jerick McKinnon, with him to Houston, Texas for workouts with his longtime personal trainer. Peterson has always shown up to camp in top shape and says the intense offseason workouts are the reason. Saying, quote, "It's a lot of strength work as well. I do so much different stuff, whether it's the track workouts, on the field, hill workouts, running 3 miles, exercise with the full body workout. Whatever the trainer throws out there in front of us, it's a challenge, and I'm always trying to accomplish that challenge." That's what he told ESPN.com. And we'll just have to see. He only played 1 game last season. After that, I don't really know if he was working out or staying in tip-top shape like he used to. Just have to see. But until then, I will see you guys next week, next Saturday morning. We will be back to normal schedule. I promise you, I guarantee you we'll be back to normal schedule. Appreciate everybody's support on the show. Be sure to like, share, and favorite this, whether you're listening on Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, whatever it is. Be sure to share it out with your friends and family. Follow me on Twitter again at @short_sports 24/7. And oh yeah, the big news I wanted to tell you guys, didn't tell y'all, even though after it happened, I am now a writer for sportsrants.com. I write about 2 to 3 articles per week, so be sure to check that out. The link is down below, so you can guys just go click on it, and it'll take you straight to it. Read past articles and get ready for future articles. But again, follow me on Twitter to get news updates every day whenever I can tweet after work or something. But again, guys, thank you so much for listening. As always, God first, God bless. I'm out. Peace.